Dad Perfect Revenge. I was standing in my kitchen making coffee when I heard the garbage disposal running. Nothing unusual about that, except it was 6:30 in the morning, and my daughter-in-law Ashley wasn't supposed to be up for another hour. Then I heard something that made my blood freeze. The sound of ceramic breaking against metal blades. I rushed to the kitchen sink and hit the switch. The disposal ground to a halt. When I looked down the drain with my flashlight, I saw fragments of white porcelain mixed with coffee grounds and eggshells. But these weren't just any porcelain pieces. I recognized the delicate hand-painted roses. Ashley had just destroyed Linda's favorite coffee mug, the one my wife had bought on our 25th anniversary trip to Maine, the one she'd used every morning for the last 8 years of her life. My name is Hank Thompson. I'm 58 years old, a retired insurance claims adjuster, and that morning I realized my daughter-in-law was systematically erasing my wife's memory from my own home. Oh, Hank. Ashley appeared in the doorway, wearing her bathrobe and that concerned expression she'd perfected over the past 8 months. I'm so sorry. I was cleaning up, and that old mug just slipped right out of my hands. You know how clumsy I can be in the mornings. Old mug? Linda had treasured that cup. She'd hand wash it every day, never put it in the dishwasher, because she was afraid the roses would fade. And Ashley called it an old mug. That was Linda's favorite, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I know, and I feel terrible about it. But Hank, you have so many coffee mugs. Maybe it's time to use some of the newer ones. Linda wouldn't want you holding on to every little thing forever. There it was again. That gentle, reasonable tone Ashley used when she wanted to convince me I was being unreasonable. Over the past 8 months, I'd heard it a lot. Ashley Martinez Thompson was 32 years old, married to my son Kevin for 3 years, and she'd been living in my house since losing her marketing coordinator job in Chicago. What started as a temporary arrangement had turned into something else entirely. Something that made me feel like a stranger in the home Linda and I had built together. Let me back up and explain how this whole situation started. Linda passed away 5 years ago, after a 2-year battle with ovarian cancer. Those last months were brutal, but she faced everything with a strength that amazed me every day. Near the end, when the pain was bad and the medications made her confused, she'd still smile when she saw me walk into the room. "Promise me you'll be happy, Hank," she said, one afternoon, about a week before she died. "Don't just exist, live." I'd promised her I would, but after 30 years of marriage, living without Linda felt like trying to breathe underwater. Everything in the house reminded me of her. The way she'd arranged the living room furniture, her books still on the nightstand, the garden she'd spent decades perfecting. Kevin, my only child, lived in Chicago with Ashley. He'd call every few weeks, visit for holidays, send pictures from their life together. Ashley seemed nice enough, polite, educated, always remembered to ask about my health. Linda used to say she felt like Ashley was studying us during their visits, taking notes. "She pays attention to everything, Hank, almost like she's cataloging our life." I should have paid more attention to Linda's instincts. She was always good at reading people. 8 months ago, Kevin called sounding stressed. Ashley had been laid off from her marketing job, and they were struggling with rent on their Chicago apartment. The startup where Kevin worked IT support wasn't doing well either. Could they maybe stay with me for a few months while they figured things out? What father says no to that? I had a 4-bedroom house, mostly empty since Linda died. Kevin was struggling, and Ashley needed help. Of course they could stay. That decision changed everything. The changes started small and reasonable. Ashley suggested updating the Wi-Fi password to something more secure. She reorganized the kitchen because the current setup was inefficient for cooking family meals. She moved some of Linda's gardening supplies out of the garage to make room for their belongings. Each change made perfect sense when Ashley explained it. She had this way of presenting every modification as an obvious improvement, something any reasonable person would want. And she always framed it as helping me. "Hank, you shouldn't have to manage all these household details," she'd say. "Let me handle the optimization, so you can focus on enjoying your retirement." By month 2, Ashley had taken over most of the household management. She set up online banking for me because paperless statements were more environmentally friendly. She changed my pharmacy to one that offered better senior discounts. She even convinced me to switch cable providers because the new company had more educational programming. Kevin went along with everything. Whenever I mentioned feeling overwhelmed by all the changes, he'd say, "Dad, Ashley's just trying to help. She's good at organizing things. It's what she did in marketing." But by month 3, I started noticing things that didn't sit right. My mail was being delivered to Ashley instead of me. When I asked about it, she explained she'd set up mail forwarding to help manage my correspondence more efficiently. My monthly bank statements stopped coming. Ashley said she'd switched everything to digital to reduce clutter, and she'd review them with me monthly. But somehow, we never got around to those monthly reviews. When old friends called, Ashley would often answer and take messages. "Hank's resting," she'd tell them. "Can I have him call you back?" But she rarely passed along the messages, and when I asked about them later, she'd say she'd forgotten, or the caller had said it wasn't urgent. Slowly, quietly, Ashley was cutting me off from the outside world, and she was doing it with such reasonable explanations that I felt foolish for questioning her. The morning of the broken coffee mug was when I finally understood what was happening. Ashley wasn't just reorganizing my life, she was erasing Linda's presence from it, piece by piece, and I was letting her do it. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went up to the master bedroom and opened Linda's jewelry box. Ashley had suggested several times that I should donate Linda's personal items to help other families, but I'd refused. This was one thing she hadn't been able to reorganize away from me. Inside the jewelry box, underneath Linda's pearl necklace, was a small key I'd forgotten about. The key to our safe deposit box at Community First Bank. Linda had insisted we keep important documents there, along with some cash for emergencies. "You never know when you might need something the bank can't access quickly," she'd always said. I hadn't been to that safe deposit box since Linda's funeral arrangements. It was time to see what was inside. The next morning, while Ashley was at her job interview and Kevin was working his remote IT job, I drove to Community First Bank. Margaret Santos, the branch manager, had known Linda and me for 15 years. She greeted me with genuine warmth. "Hank, it's been too long. How are you holding up?" "I'm managing, Margaret. I need to access my safe deposit box. Haven't been here since Linda passed." Margaret's expression softened. "Of course. Let me get the paperwork." Inside the safe deposit box, I found exactly what Linda had promised. Our original house deed, showing the property belongs solely to me. Our marriage certificate, Linda's will, insurance policies, and $8,000 in cash that Ashley knew nothing about. But there was something else. A manila envelope with my name written in Linda's careful handwriting. Inside was a letter dated just 6 months before she died. "My dearest Hank," it began. "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're probably struggling more than you want to admit. I know you, and I know you'll try to handle everything alone. Don't. People will try to take advantage of your grief and your generous heart. Be careful who you trust with our life together. Some people see a widower and think they see an easy target. You're stronger and smarter than they realize. Trust your instincts. I love you always, Linda." I sat in that small bank room and cried. Linda had known. Somehow she'd known that people might try to exploit my loneliness. She'd prepared for threats I couldn't even imagine at the time. When I got home, Ashley was in the living room with Kevin, both of them looking serious. They'd been talking in low voices when I walked in, but stopped when they saw me. "Dad," Kevin said, "Ashley and I have been discussing your situation. We think it might be time to consider some changes." "What kind of changes?" Ashley leaned forward with that concerned expression she'd mastered. "Hank, we've been watching you struggle with managing this big house. The yard work, the maintenance, the financial complexity of everything. We think you might be happier in a retirement community." My blood went cold, but I kept my voice neutral. "I'm managing fine. Are you though?" Ashley pulled out a folder. I've been researching some really nice places. Sunset Manor has an excellent reputation. They handle all the daily management tasks, provide meals, have social activities. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. She opened the folder and showed me glossy brochures. Happy seniors playing cards, walking in gardens, eating in communal dining rooms. Everything looked pleasant and sterile. How much does it cost? I asked. The entry fee is $25,000, and then it's $4,800 per month, Ashley said smoothly. But here's the thing. You could sell this house and have plenty to cover those costs for years. The house is worth at least $340,000. After you pay the entry fee and set aside money for monthly costs, you'd still have a significant amount left over for emergencies. I did the math in my head. $4,800 per month was $57,600 per year. Even selling the house, I'd be broke in 5 years. Maybe 6 if I was careful. Then what? Where would the leftover money be managed? I asked. Kevin spoke up. Ashley's been learning about financial planning. She could help manage your investments, make sure everything grows properly. There it was, the plan. Get me into a retirement home where I'd pay monthly fees until my money ran out, while Ashley managed whatever was left from selling the house. I'd be completely dependent on them for everything. I need to think about it, I said. Of course, Ashley said. But Hank, don't wait too long. The good retirement communities have waiting lists. We should at least put your name down and tour the facility. That evening, after Kevin and Ashley went to bed, I sat in my workshop in the basement. It was the one room in the house Ashley hadn't reorganized. My tools were still where Linda had helped me arrange them 10 years ago. My workbench still had the coffee ring stains from the mornings Linda would bring me coffee while I worked on weekend projects. I pulled out a legal pad and started writing down everything I could remember from the past 8 months. Every change Ashley had made, every service she'd switched, every friend who'd stopped calling, every piece of mail that had been redirected. When you work in insurance for 30 years, you learn to recognize patterns. You learn to spot the difference between coincidence and conspiracy. What I was seeing wasn't random organizational improvement. It was systematic isolation, preparation for financial takeover. Ashley wasn't trying to help me. She was setting me up. And tomorrow, I was going to start fighting back. The next morning, I called my old friend Charlie Williams. Charlie had been the chief legal counsel for our insurance company for 25 years. If anyone knew how to build a case against financial fraud, it was Charlie. Hank, good to hear from you. How's retirement treating you? Charlie, I need your help. I think my daughter-in-law is trying to steal my house and my savings. There was a pause. That's a serious accusation. What makes you think that? I explained everything. The gradual takeover of my finances, the isolation from friends and mail, the retirement home pressure with Ashley managing my leftover money. Charlie listened without interrupting. Hank, what you're describing sounds like elder financial abuse. It's a felony in this state, but we need evidence. Solid, documented proof. How do I get that? Carefully, very carefully, and legally. Can you meet me at my office tomorrow afternoon? Ashley thinks I'm going to the doctor. I'll be there. That afternoon, while Ashley was out grocery shopping, I started my investigation the way I'd handled insurance claims for 30 years. I documented everything. First, I checked my computer. Ashley had helped me set up online banking months ago, changing all the passwords to keep everything secure. But she'd made a mistake. She'd used Kevin's birthday as the password hint. After 30 years investigating fraud, I knew people always used dates that were meaningful to them. Kevin's birthday worked. I was in. What I found made my stomach turn. My checking account showed a balance of $12,400, but according to my mental calculations, it should have been closer to $28,000. I printed the statements for the past 8 months. The transfers told the story. Small amounts at first, $500 here, $300 there, always labeled as household expenses or family costs. Then bigger amounts, $2,200 for home improvements, $1,800 for emergency repairs, $3,400 for family medical expenses. None of these expenses had been discussed with me. None of them were for things I'd authorized. Next, I checked my 401k account. The login information was stored in the browser history. Ashley had been thorough about accessing everything. My retirement account showed first to me. According to my records, it should have been around $67,000. Over $23,000 had been withdrawn in the past 6 months, all labeled as hardship withdrawals for various family emergencies. I printed everything: bank statements, transfer records, withdrawal authorizations with signatures I didn't remember making. Some of the signatures looked close to mine, but the angle was wrong. The pressure was different. Then I did something that felt like betrayal, but I had to know the truth. I went through Ashley and Kevin's room while they were both out. In Ashley's dresser drawer, underneath her clothes, I found a manila folder labeled Financial Planning. Inside were copies of my bank statements, my 401k information, and something that made my blood run cold: applications for power of attorney, legal documents that would give Ashley complete control over my finances. According to the paperwork, I was suffering from mild cognitive decline and needed assistance managing my affairs. There were also property transfer documents, papers that would add Ashley's name to my house deed for estate planning purposes, and brochures for 3 different retirement communities, with notes in Ashley's handwriting about monthly costs and entry fees. At the bottom of the folder was a notebook with Ashley's financial calculations. She'd estimated the house value at $340,000, retirement home costs at $4,800 per month. She'd calculated exactly how long my money would last and what would happen when it ran out. According to her notes, after selling the house and paying for 4 to 5 years of retirement home care, there would be approximately $80,000 left. Ashley had written K&A Emergency Fund next to that number. Kevin and Ashley's emergency fund, built from selling my house and spending my retirement savings on a care facility I'd never agreed to enter. I photographed everything with my phone, then put the folder back exactly where I'd found it. That evening, Ashley announced she'd scheduled a tour of Sunset Manor for the following week. "Just to see what it's like," she said. "No pressure." Kevin nodded enthusiastically. "Dad, I think you'll really like it. Ashley says they have a workshop area where you can still do your woodworking projects." "How does Ashley know what I'll like?" I asked. "She's never asked me what I want." Kevin looked confused. "She's trying to help, Dad. We both are. Are you? Because it feels like you're trying to get rid of me." Ashley's mask slipped for just a second. Her voice got sharper. "Hank, that's not fair. We've given up our life in Chicago to take care of you. We're trying to make sure you're safe and comfortable. I never asked you to give up your life in Chicago. You didn't have to ask. That's what family does." But the way she said family made it clear she didn't consider me family. I was a problem to be managed, a source of assets to be harvested. After they went to bed, I sat in my workshop and organized all the evidence I'd gathered. Bank statements showing unauthorized withdrawals, 401k records showing mysterious hardship distributions, photos of power of attorney documents I'd never signed, property transfer papers I'd never seen. I also wrote down everything I could remember about conversations with Ashley, her suggestions about donating Linda's belongings, her insistence on managing my mail and phone calls, her gradual takeover of every aspect of my daily life. When you work insurance claims, you learn that fraud always leaves a trail. People think they're being clever, but they get careless. They document things they shouldn't. They create evidence of their own crimes. Ashley had been very careless. Tomorrow, I was meeting with Charlie Williams. Together, we were going to figure out how to stop Ashley before she could complete her plan. And maybe, just maybe, I was going to save my son from making the biggest mistake of his life. Charlie Williams looked grim as he reviewed the evidence I'd brought to his office. Bank statements, 401k records, photos of the unauthorized documents, and my detailed timeline of Ashley's takeover. He spread everything across his conference table like pieces of a puzzle. Hank, this is textbook elder financial abuse, Charlie said. The gradual isolation, the unauthorized access to accounts, the forged signatures on financial documents. In this state, that's a Class B felony. We're talking about potential prison time. What about Kevin? Is he legally involved in this? Charlie studied the documents again. From what I see here, Kevin might not know the extent of what Ashley's doing. The power of attorney applications only have Ashley's signature as the requesting party, but we'll need to be careful. Once we move forward, there's no going back. I can't let her destroy Kevin's life along with mine. Then we do this smart. We set up a controlled situation where Ashley reveals her intentions clearly, with proper documentation. Are you willing to wear a recording device? 2 days later, I sat in my living room with a small digital recorder taped inside my shirt pocket. Ashley had arranged for a representative from Sunset Manor to come to the house for our informal consultation. Mrs. Patricia Morrison from Sunset Manor was a pleasant woman in her 50s, who genuinely seemed to care about senior welfare. Ashley had positioned herself as my primary caregiver, speaking for me whenever Mrs. Morrison asked direct questions. "Mr. Thompson, what interests you most about potentially moving to a retirement community?" Mrs. Morrison asked. Before I could answer, Ashley jumped in. "Hank's been struggling with the complexity of managing this large house. Haven't you, Hank? The yard work, the financial management, keeping track of appointments and medications." "I don't take any medications," I said, "and I manage my finances just fine." Ashley laughed gently. "Hank, you've been getting confused about your accounts. Remember last week when you couldn't find your bank statements? I had to help you locate everything." Mrs. Morrison looked at me with sympathy. "That's quite common, Mr. Thompson. Many seniors find financial management becomes overwhelming." "Actually," I said, "I'd like to review my current financial situation with Mrs. Morrison. Could you bring me my latest bank statements, Ashley?" Ashley hesitated for just a moment. "Of course. But, Hank, we've already reviewed everything. Your retirement savings are sufficient for Sunset Manor's programs. I'd like to see the specific numbers." Ashley left the room and returned with a folder. She pulled out statements that showed my checking account balance as $28,000 and my 401k as $67,000. I looked at Mrs. Morrison. "Could you excuse us for a moment? I need to discuss something privately with Ashley." After Mrs. Morrison stepped outside, I pulled out my real bank statements from under my chair cushion. "Ashley, these numbers don't match what I'm seeing in my actual accounts." Her face went white. "What do you mean?" "I mean my checking account has $12,400, not $28,000. My 401k has $43,200, not $67,000. Where's the missing money?" "Hank, you're confused. Those are old statements. These are from yesterday, and they show systematic withdrawals that I never authorized." Ashley's voice got sharper. "You did authorize them. We discussed every expense, the home improvements, the family emergencies, the medical costs." "What medical costs? What emergencies? Show me receipts for these improvements. You can't expect me to keep track of every receipt from 8 months of expenses." I pulled out my phone and hit record. "Ashley, I need you to explain to me exactly how $23,800 has disappeared from my accounts." That's when she cracked. "Hank, you don't understand how expensive it's been for Kevin and me to take care of you. We've sacrificed our careers, our life in Chicago, everything. That money went to supporting this household, keeping you safe and comfortable. By stealing from me, it's not stealing. It's family contribution, and once you're in Sunset Manor and we sell this house, there will be plenty of money for everyone. Everyone? You'll have your care covered, and Kevin and I will have something to restart our lives. It's fair, Hank. It's practical." I stopped recording and looked at Ashley for a long moment. She just confessed to everything: theft, fraud, and conspiracy to commit elder abuse, all captured on my phone. Mrs. Morrison knocked on the door. "Is everything all right?" "Mrs. Morrison," I called out, "I won't be needing Sunset Manor's services, but thank you for your time." After she left, I turned to Ashley. "You have 24 hours to pack your things and leave my house. Take Kevin with you if he chooses to go." "You can't do that. We live here. We have rights. This is my house. I'm the sole owner. Check the deed. You're guests who have overstayed their welcome." Kevin came home 2 hours later to find Ashley in our bedroom frantically packing. "What's going on?" he asked. I showed him everything. The bank records, the forged documents, the recording of Ashley's confession. I watched my son's face as he realized what his wife had been doing. "Dad, I didn't know," he said. His voice is breaking. "I swear I didn't know about the money." "I believe you, son, but you need to decide what you're going to do about your marriage to a woman who steals from her own family." Ashley tried to convince Kevin that I was confused, that everything she'd done was legitimate, but the evidence was overwhelming, and Kevin wasn't stupid. They left the next morning, Ashley in angry silence, Kevin with tears in his eyes, and promises to call me soon. I filed charges against Ashley that afternoon. Charlie Williams handled the legal proceedings. She was arrested 3 days later at her sister's house in Milwaukee. Ashley took a plea deal, 18 months in county jail, 3 years probation, and full restitution of the stolen funds. Kevin filed for divorce while she was awaiting sentencing. That was 8 months ago. Kevin and I talk twice a week now. He's moved back to Illinois, gotten a better job, and he's dating someone new. Someone who, according to Kevin, actually listens when he talks and doesn't try to reorganize his life for him. I still live in the house Linda and I built together. Her coffee mug is gone, but I have hundreds of other memories that no one can take away or destroy. And I've learned something important. Protecting your family sometimes means protecting them from each other. If you're reading this and something feels wrong in your own home, trust that feeling. Document everything. Get help from people who knew you before the problem started. And remember, your house, your money, your life. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, no matter how reasonable they sound. The truth has a way of revealing itself, if you're patient enough to let it. Sometimes, the people who claim to love you the most are the ones positioning themselves to take everything you've worked for. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, even if everyone around you says you're being paranoid, the greatest revenge isn't anger or violence. It's using your experience and knowledge to expose the truth. Protect what matters most, and teach others that dignity and self-respect are never too late to reclaim.